Aria thought he was just a driver. A quiet man with warm eyes, a gentle voice, and a habit of stealing glances at her in the rearview mirror. She never imagined he was a billionaire hiding from the world, or that the night he picked her up would drag them both into a whirlwind of secrets, danger, and a love so consuming it threatened to destroy them. But the biggest secret wasn't his. It was hers. And when the truth finally surfaced, it wouldn't just rewrite their past, it would shatter their future. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more thrilling stories. Ethan Vale had always believed that wealth built walls. Tall, cold, impenetrable. And for years he'd lived behind them willingly. Billionaire, and one of the most influential men on the eastern seaboard, yet none of it mattered when he looked in the mirror and saw a man who wasn't sure who truly cared about him rather than his power. So one rain-soaked evening, fed up with the curated perfection of his life, he dismissed his chauffeur, grabbed the keys to the town car himself, and slipped out of the mansion unnoticed. Dressed in a plain black suit with no watch, no rings, no trace of luxury, he drove through the city alone, letting the anonymity calm him. That's when he saw her. A woman stood at the edge of the curb, drenched and hugging a worn backpack to her chest. She waved frantically to the passing cars, all of which ignored her. Something in her eyes, fire mixed with fear, pulled Ethan's hands to the brakes before he even decided. She opened the passenger door and hesitated when she saw him. "Are you free?" she asked, breathless. "Yeah," he said softly. "Get in." She slid into the seat, dripping water everywhere but offering a grateful smile that hit him harder than he expected. "I'm Aria," she said. "Ethan," he replied, leaving out the last name that would have changed everything. Where she asked him to drive wasn't one place but three. First a closed community college, then an abandoned bookstore, then an old apartment complex on the outskirts of the city. Each stop seemed to weigh on her, as though she was erasing pieces of her past one by one. Ethan didn't ask questions, but she eventually spoke anyway. "I'm leaving town tonight," she whispered as he pulled away from the third stop. "I should have left years ago." He glanced over. "Are you running from something or toward something?" Aria gave a sad smile. "Maybe both." The honesty of it, the fragile courage, struck him. She wasn't like the women at galas who spoke in rehearsed lines. She wasn't impressed by him, she didn't even know him, and yet her presence filled the car with an unfamiliar warmth. When she shivered, he reached back for the spare blanket he kept in the car, wrapping it around her shoulders. Her eyes softened. "No driver has ever cared this much," she murmured. He swallowed hard. "Maybe I'm not like other drivers." For the first time that night, she laughed, a bright, heartbreakingly beautiful sound that melted something inside him. They talked the entire ride, about books she loved, dreams she'd postponed, and the life she wished she could start over. He shared little truths of his own, careful ones, but enough to make her eyes linger on him longer each time. And then, as he pulled up to the bus station she'd asked for, Aria turned to him with a trembling breath. "Would you stay a few minutes? I don't want to say goodbye yet." Ethan froze, torn between the lie he lived and the truth he couldn't speak. But before he could answer, a black SUV screeched to a stop beside them. A man jumped out, rain pounding on his shoulders. His voice was a growl of fury. "Aria, I told you, you're not going anywhere." Aria's face drained of color. Ethan's fingers tightened around the steering wheel. And the man's gaze shifted to Ethan. "Step out of the car," he demanded. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." Ethan opened his door slowly, but not out of fear. Because he had no idea who Ethan was dealing with either, and in 30 seconds, the truth would explode in the rain. Ethan stepped out of the car, every muscle coiled, rain slicking his hair to his forehead. The man storming toward them was tall, broad-shouldered, and radiating the kind of rage that came from ownership, not concern. Aria scrambled out of the passenger side. "Marcus, stop. I told you I was done. You can't keep doing this." Marcus ignored her completely, his eyes locked on Ethan. "Driver." He jabbed a finger forward. "Get lost. Now." Ethan didn't move. Aria rushed between them. "He's not part of this. Let him go." Marcus sneered. "Sweetheart, Everyone becomes part of it when you involve them. His hand shot out, gripping Aria's wrist so tightly she winced. You think you can disappear? After everything you took from me? Ethan's jaw clenched. Everything she took? Aria's voice shook. I didn't take anything. I left what was never mine. Marcus yanked her closer. Ethan stepped forward before he even realized he'd moved. Let her go. Marcus turned his glare on him again. Or what? You'll call your dispatcher? Threaten to quit? He laughed harshly. Don't play the hero, driver. You're out of your league. Ethan's temper snapped. Not in a loud, explosive way, but in a quiet, lethal shift, the kind that came from years of negotiating hostile corporate takeovers and dealing with men who thought power gave them ownership. But before he could speak, Aria did. Marcus, she said, voice trembling but determined. I'm not going back. I'd rather start over with nothing than spend another day being controlled by you. Marcus's grip tightened. You won't start over with anything once I'm through. Ethan moved now, fast. He seized Marcus's arm, prying his fingers from Aria's wrist with controlled force. Marcus swung at him, but Ethan blocked it effortlessly. Marcus stumbled back, shocked that a driver had reflexes like that. Aria stared, equally stunned. Marcus wiped rain from his face, anger growing. Who the hell are you? Ethan opened his mouth, ready to say no one, ready to keep the lie intact, but Aria grabbed his sleeve first. Ethan, she whispered, eyes wide, what are you not telling me? For one heartbeat, the rain fell in absolute silence around them. A second SUV pulled into the parking lot. But this one wasn't Marcus's. It was sleek. Familiar. Ethan's stomach dropped. The door opened and out stepped Victor Hale, his head of security. He didn't look at Marcus. He looked straight at Ethan. Sir, Victor said, voice sharp with urgency, your board has been trying to reach you for hours. We need to leave. Now. Aria's breath caught. Marcus's eyes widened. And Ethan knew the lie was dead. Because at that moment, in the harsh glow of the parking lot, Aria finally understood. He wasn't a driver. He wasn't anonymous. He wasn't safe to love. Vale, billionaire, mogul, and the man who had just risked everything for her, met her gaze. Aria, he murmured. I can explain. But before he could take a step toward her, Marcus lunged, grabbing Aria and pulling her toward the SUV. She screamed. Victor reached for his weapon. Ethan ran. And just as he closed the distance, Marcus shoved Aria into the back seat, slammed the door, and the SUV tore away into the rain-soaked night, leaving Ethan standing in the middle of the road, soaked, breathless, and watching the woman who stole his heart disappear. Ethan's heart pounded so violently, he feared it would break through his chest. He was a man used to control, used to bending the world to his will, but not this. Not her. Not Aria. He dropped to his knees for a split second, gripping the asphalt, tasting the rain on his lips. And then, with a speed born of desperation, he vaulted into his car and slammed the engine to life. The SUV was already disappearing around a corner, tires throwing water like missiles. Victor ran up beside him. Sir, wait. You can't. Shut up. Ethan snapped, eyes locked on the taillights. She's not going to some safe place. I'm going after her. Victor hesitated, then followed, knowing better than to argue. The rain hammered down, but Ethan drove like a man possessed, weaving through the slick streets. Marcus's SUV was fast, but Ethan knew these city streets like the back of his hand. Every red light, every narrow alley, every hidden turn. He used them all to close the distance. Minutes felt like hours. Ethan's mind raced, not with plans or strategies, but with thoughts of her, the warmth of her laugh, the fragility she tried to hide, the way she had looked at him with that fragile trust. And then, as the SUV turned onto a deserted industrial road, Ethan saw it. Marcus had stopped. Aria was inside, pressed against the door, her eyes wide with fear. Marcus stepped out, pacing, speaking in low, dangerous tones. Ethan couldn't hear the words, but the menace in his stance was clear. Ethan stopped his car 100 feet away. He stepped out, rain plastering his hair to his forehead. Marcus, he called, his voice cutting through the storm. Let her go. Now. Marcus laughed, a sound that made the hairs on Ethan's arms stand on end. Or what, billionaire? You'll make another deal? Sign another contract? You think your money scares me? Ethan didn't flinch. No. You think you scare me. But you don't. Not me. Not her. Not anyone who's worth a damn. Aria's eyes widened as she realized. This man, this driver, was everything she hadn't known she needed. And maybe, just maybe, she had given her heart to the right man. Marcus's expression darkened. You really don't know who you're messing with. He moved toward Ethan, hands clenching. Then, out of the shadows behind Marcus, a new figure emerged, tall, imposing, their presence almost as dangerous as Marcus's. Ethan squinted, heart skipping a beat. The figure stepped into the light. And in that moment, Ethan realized, this wasn't just about saving Aria. It was about survival. Because the person in the shadows wasn't human. They were the one who had orchestrated everything. And they were smiling. Ethan froze, rain plastering his suit to his skin. The figure emerging from the shadows radiated authority, danger, and an almost chilling calm. Not human, or at least, not like anyone Ethan had ever dealt with in boardrooms or battlefields. Their smile was sharp, predatory, and knowing. Ethan Vale, the figure said, voice smooth as silk but laced with venom. I've been expecting you. Aria gasped, instinctively moving closer to Ethan. Who is that? The figure's eyes flicked to her, then back to Ethan. Someone who doesn't like loose ends. And right now, both of you are very loose. Marcus scowled. Wait, this isn't your fight. The shadowed figure shook their head. No, Marcus. This is exactly my fight. And it's about to get very personal. Ethan's mind raced. He was smart, strategic, ruthless, but he had never encountered a threat like this. Every instinct screamed danger, but his gaze shifted to Aria, whose hands were trembling but gripping his sleeve. He realized something terrifying. If he didn't act fast, she might disappear from his life before he even had the chance to fight for her. Aria, Ethan said quietly, locking eyes with her. You need to stay behind me. No matter what. Her lips pressed together, courage fighting fear. I'm not leaving you. Not now. He wanted to argue, to insist she hide, but he couldn't. Not when she had already stolen his heart in a few brief hours. The shadow stepped closer, and suddenly, everything in the air shifted. The rain seemed heavier, the wind sharper, and Ethan felt the weight of inevitability pressing down on him. I don't know who you are, Ethan said, voice steady despite the storm pounding in his chest, but if you want her, you're going to have to go through me. The figure laughed softly. Brave, but foolish. You think a man can protect someone from me? You have no idea how deep this goes. Marcus cursed and backed away, realizing he had underestimated both Ethan and whoever, or whatever, stood before them. Aria looked from Ethan to the figure, eyes wide with fear and awe. Ethan, what's happening? Ethan reached for her hand, gripping it tightly. I don't know yet, but I swear, I won't let anything happen to you. The shadow tilted their head, smile widening. That's exactly why this will be so much fun. Then, in an instant, the figure vanished into the darkness, leaving only a chilling echo of their laughter. Ethan spun around, scanning the rain-slicked lot. Marcus was gone too. Aria was shaking, soaked to the bone, her eyes searching his face. Ethan pulled her close, whispering into her hair. We're not safe yet, but I promise. I'll find out who that is. And I'll protect you, no matter what it takes. Aria buried her face in his chest, heart racing. I trust you, Ethan. And in that moment, standing in the storm, Ethan realized something he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years. He was no longer just a man behind walls of wealth and power. He was a man ready to risk everything, for love, for her, for the unknown storm ahead. The sound of engines in the distance made them both freeze. Two SUVs, headlights slicing through the rain, were heading straight for them. Ethan tightened his grip on Aria. Hold on, he muttered. This is just the beginning. And the night swallowed them whole. The headlights cut through the rain like blades. Ethan felt his pulse hammering, not from fear, but from the fierce clarity of purpose. He had no idea who these people were or what they wanted, but he knew one thing: he wasn't letting Aria go. Not tonight. Not ever. "Get in," he said, opening the car door with a force that made Aria flinch. She didn't hesitate. She slid into the passenger seat, and he followed, slamming the door behind them. Victor was already in the back, eyes scanning the lot like a hawk. "Sir, they're heavily armed. We need a plan." "No," Ethan interrupted, gripping the wheel. "We don't run. We drive." The SUVs roared closer, tires slicing through puddles, rain flying into the windshield. Ethan slammed the car into reverse, spinning around a puddle to take a side alley, tires skidding. Victor's hand shot to the concealed pistol at his side, but Ethan shook his head. This wasn't about bullets yet. It was about speed, strategy, and survival. Aria gripped the seat, knuckles white. "Ethan, who are they?" "I don't know," he admitted, voice tight. "But whoever they are, they're connected to everything I've ever hidden. And they're not leaving me a choice." They barreled down narrow streets, the SUVs keeping pace, headlights glaring like hunters closing in. Ethan's mind raced. He needed an edge, a way to shake them. And then it hit him. The old industrial docks, abandoned warehouses, a labyrinth of rusted shipping containers just a few blocks ahead. If he could lose them there. He swerved sharply, tires screeching. "Hold on." Aria clutched his arm, heart hammering. "I don't care how dangerous it is. I'm with you." Ethan's chest tightened. Her words, her faith, ignited a fire in him he hadn't felt in years. Every calculated move, every risk he'd taken, it all led to this moment. The car plunged into the maze of shipping containers. Ethan maneuvered through narrow gaps, tires barely clearing rusted metal, heart pounding as he felt the SUVs following blindly, crashing into obstacles. Sparks flew as one clipped a container corner, and Ethan knew he had a chance. "Now, Victor!" he shouted. Victor pressed a button, and a cloud of smoke erupted from the car's rear. The SUVs slammed into the thick haze, headlights diffused, vision blinded. Ethan didn't stop. He drove harder, faster, weaving unpredictably. Aria's voice broke through the roar of the engine. "Ethan, what if we don't make it?" Ethan glanced at her, rain plastering her hair to her face, eyes fierce despite fear. "Then we fight. Together. Always." And just as the smoke cleared, Ethan spotted a silhouette ahead. The shadowed figure, the one who had vanished earlier, stood in the middle of the dock, arms crossed, waiting. The car skidded to a stop. Aria gasped. Victor tensed. Ethan stared, chest tight, rage and fear colliding. The figure stepped forward, revealing a flash of recognition. A face Ethan never expected. A ghost from his past. Someone who knew him better than anyone. "Ethan Vale," the figure said slowly, voice like ice. "You shouldn't have brought her into this." Ethan's grip tightened on the wheel, jaw clenched. "Aria is not a part of your games." The figure smiled. "Oh, but she already is." Lightning split the sky. In the electric flash, Ethan saw the truth, and realized that tonight, nothing would ever be the same. The rain had stopped, leaving the docks slick and glistening under the harsh glare of overhead lights. Ethan sat tensely in the driver's seat, Aria gripping his arm, Victor's hand hovering near his weapon. But all three of them froze at the figure stepping closer, a face from Ethan's past, one he thought he'd buried years ago. "Is that?" Aria whispered, barely audible. Ethan's jaw tightened. "It can't be." But it was. A familiar smirk, a sharp gaze that had haunted his memories. Leander Cross, the man who had once been Ethan's closest friend, his most dangerous rival, and the reason Ethan had made enemies he didn't fully understand. "You," Ethan breathed, voice low but steady. "You're behind all of this." Leander's smile widened, teeth gleaming in the dock lights. "Not all of it. Just enough to bring you here, to bring her here." Aria stepped forward, anger battling fear. "Who are you to threaten me? To threaten him?" Leander's eyes flicked to her. "Ah, the reason he came out of hiding. The one who stole his heart before he even knew he had one." His gaze lingered on Ethan. "And now, you'll both see why some truths are better left buried." Ethan's mind raced. Everything, from the mysterious figure in the shadows, Marcus's sudden appearance, the attacks, the chase, it all connected to Leander. But why now? Why involve Aria? Leander took another step forward. You've done well, Ethan. Clever, resourceful. But you still don't understand the game. Not yet. And tonight, you're playing for more than just survival. You're playing for her. Victor tensed. Sir, we need to move. Now. Ethan glanced at Aria, then back at Leander. I will not let you take her. Not you. Not anyone. Leander laughed softly, the sound echoing across the empty docks. Then come. Let's see how far your loyalty and your love really go. Without warning, Leander reached into his coat. Ethan braced for the worst, but the object was not a weapon. It was a small, unmarked envelope. He tossed it at Ethan's feet. Ethan picked it up, hands trembling. The envelope bore no name, only a single word scrawled in black ink. Trust. Aria leaned close, whispering, What does it mean? Ethan stared at the envelope, heart pounding. He didn't know. But instinct told him. Inside lay the key to everything. Her safety, his past, and the truth that could destroy or save them all. He looked up at Leander. I open it, and if it's a trap? Leander shrugged, smile still sharp. Then you learn the hard way. But don't worry, either way, the game changes tonight. Aria's hand found his. Ethan held it tight, knowing that whatever was inside, their next move would bind them together, or tear them apart forever. Ethan slowly opened the envelope, and inside was a single photograph. It showed someone he never expected to see. Someone from Aria's past. Someone who could explain everything, or destroy everything. Ethan's eyes widened. Aria gasped. Before either could react, the sound of engines rumbled again. Leander's grin widened. You have 5 minutes, he said. Choose wisely. The storm of the past, the danger of the present, and the love that had ignited so quickly, all converged in that one moment. Ethan looked at Aria. Whatever this is, we face it together. She nodded, gripping his hand. And together, they turned toward the photograph, not knowing that with the next step, nothing would ever be the same. Continuation. The billionaire pretended to be a driver. The woman he picked up stole his heart. Ethan stared at the photograph, the edges damp from the rain. His mind raced, heart hammering in his chest. The image showed Aria standing in a sunlit room, holding a small, silver locket. Behind her, barely visible, was a man. Someone Ethan knew, someone dangerous, someone he had thought long gone. Aria's hand went to her throat instinctively. Where did you get that? She whispered, voice trembling. Leander's grin widened. Oh, that, my dear? That's the reason your past caught up with you, and why Ethan is going to have to make a choice. Ethan's jaw tightened. Explain. Now. Leander stepped back, letting the rain-soaked dock stretch between them. The girl you picked up tonight, she's not just any runaway. She's part of a web that I've been untangling for years. And if you care about her as much as you think, you'll do exactly as I say. Aria shook her head. I don't understand. Ethan, what does he mean? Ethan's eyes never left the photograph. The man in the background, tall, sharp-featured, and familiar, was someone from Aria's childhood, someone with a reputation that sent chills down Ethan's spine. This wasn't just about Aria running away from Marcus. This was bigger. Much bigger. Leander's voice cut through the tension. 5 minutes, Vale. Solve it, or she disappears forever. Ethan gritted his teeth. And if I refuse? Leander tilted his head, eyes glinting. Then you'll watch her become a ghost. And maybe you'll wish you had been a little braver. Aria's hand found Ethan's again, shaking. Please. We can't let him win. Ethan nodded, determination flashing in his eyes. We're not letting him win. Not tonight. Not ever. Victor's voice came from the back seat, steady but tense. Sir, I suggest a tactical approach. Whoever that man is in the photograph, he's the key. If we can reach him, we might have leverage. Ethan exhaled slowly, glancing at Aria. Then that's what we do. We find him. And whatever it takes, we get her back. Leander's laughter echoed across the docks, low and dangerous. Bold. But remember, the clock is ticking. Ethan slid the photograph into his jacket, gripping Aria's hand tightly. Victor started the engine. Ethan looked back at Leander one last time, a silent promise blazing in his eyes. We will not be controlled. We will not be broken. The SUVs they had thought were chasing them were now shadows behind them in the distance. Ahead lay unknown streets, unknown danger, and the mystery of Aria's past that could change everything. But for the first time that night, Ethan didn't feel fear. He felt purpose. He felt fire. He felt love. And somewhere in the darkness, Leander's voice whispered, cold and deliberate. You think you're ready, but you have no idea what's coming next. The rain-soaked city swallowed them, engines roaring, hearts racing, and a new chapter of danger and desire waiting just ahead. The city streets blurred past in streaks of neon and rain-slicked asphalt. Ethan's grip on the wheel was tight, knuckles white, but his focus was sharp. Beside him, Aria's hand found his again, grounding him, reminding him why he was doing this. Whoever the man in the photograph was, Ethan now knew their path forward depended on finding him, and fast. Victor, scanning the streets, broke the tense silence. Sir, the address Leander gave you, it's an abandoned warehouse on the East Pier. If the photograph is any indication, that's where he's hiding, or where he wants you to go. Ethan's jaw tightened. Then we go there. But we do this smart. Leander thinks he's setting a trap, but we'll set ours. Aria swallowed, eyes wide, voice barely a whisper. Ethan, what if it's too dangerous? Ethan glanced at her, rain streaking her hair across her forehead. Then we face it together. I'm not losing you, not tonight, not ever. The warehouse loomed ahead, massive and dark, framed by cranes and rusted shipping containers. Ethan killed the engine a few blocks away, and they crept on foot, using the shadows as cover. Every step felt like walking a tightrope over a chasm, one wrong move, and everything could fall apart. As they neared the entrance, a faint light flickered inside. Ethan motioned for Aria and Victor to stay low. Then, through a cracked window, he saw him, the man from the photograph. And he wasn't alone. Marcus. And behind Marcus, a group of armed men, surrounding someone who looked strikingly like Aria. But it couldn't be, could it? Ethan's stomach twisted. No, he muttered. It's a setup. They're using her image, or a decoy. Leander's voice cut through the air, smooth, controlled, coming from nowhere and everywhere at once. Very perceptive, Ethan. But perceptive isn't enough. You'll have to come in and see for yourself. Ethan crouched lower, mind racing. He had no idea what trap awaited, but one thing was certain. He couldn't wait. He couldn't hesitate. He turned to Aria, eyes fierce. Stay close. No matter what happens, trust me. Aria nodded, fear and resolve warring in her gaze. Always. Ethan stepped into the warehouse shadows. The air smelled of rust, oil, and danger. The figure in the center, Aria's double or perhaps someone even more sinister, stood unnervingly still. Marcus smirked, but there was tension in his shoulders now. And then the lights flicked on. The warehouse was no longer empty. Every corner revealed armed men, crates marked with mysterious symbols, and at the far end, the real Aria, tied to a chair, gagged, but very much alive. Ethan's heart froze. She had been in the photograph. But this was worse. Leander stepped out of the shadows, clapping slowly. Congratulations, Ethan. You found her. But the real question is, do you have what it takes to save her? Ethan's eyes narrowed. Every ounce of strategy, every calculated move in his life, every skill he'd honed as a businessman and survivor flashed through his mind. And then, without hesitation, he bolted. Gunfire erupted. Crates splintered. Marcus lunged toward him. Victor covered his flank. Aria struggled against her bonds, panic in her eyes, but she knew, somehow, that Ethan would reach her. Ethan dove toward her, heart pounding, every second a lifetime. And just as he reached the chair, a hand clamped over his shoulder. Leander's face inches from his, smile sharp as a blade. Not so fast, Ethan. Ethan spun, fists ready, but froze. Behind Leander, another shadow emerged, and it was larger, darker, moving with a predator's precision. Ethan realized, with a cold jolt, he had no idea what he was about to face. Aria's eyes met his, wide and terrified. "Ethan." He grabbed her hand, voice firm. "Hold on. I'm not letting go." The shadow lunged, and everything went black. The shadow hit with the force of a hurricane, knocking Ethan sideways. He slammed into a crate, the impact jarring every bone in his body. Rain from the warehouse roof dripped onto the concrete floor, mixing with dust and oil. Aria screamed, struggling against her bindings, but Ethan's focus snapped to the source of the attack. The figure stepped into the dim light, and Ethan's heart nearly stopped. It was enormous, tall, broad, movement precise and predatory. The hood over their head fell back just slightly, revealing a glint of steel-gray hair and a scarred jawline. But what made Ethan freeze wasn't the physical threat. It was the eyes. Eyes that mirrored his own. Eyes that had haunted his nightmares and lingered in the darkest corners of his memory. "Leander sent you?" Ethan demanded, voice hoarse. "Or is this your personal vendetta?" The figure tilted their head, expression unreadable. "Neither. I'm here for her." Aria's eyes widened. "Me? What? Why are you here?" The figure's gaze softened just for a fraction of a second. "Because she's more important than you know. More than anyone knows." Ethan rose slowly, every muscle coiled, ready to fight. "If you lay a finger on her, I swear." The figure stepped closer, and for the first time, Ethan noticed the resemblance. Not just in the eyes, but in the set of the jaw, the curve of the shoulders. Your brother," the figure finished, voice low, almost haunted. Ethan staggered back, disbelief and shock colliding. "My brother? That's impossible." "Not impossible," the figure said, voice tight. "But hidden. Kept secret. Until now." Aria blinked, confusion and fear twisting her face. "Her brother? What does that mean?" Ethan shook his head, trying to absorb the revelation. Memories he had buried long ago, the night their parents disappeared, the whispers of betrayal, the secret adoption that had never been revealed, all collided in an instant. "My name is Adrian," the figure said, stepping closer. "And I've been watching you both, Ethan, protecting her from the shadows. But Leander, he wants her to hurt you, to break you. And I can't let that happen." Ethan stared at Adrian, mind reeling. "So, all this time, you've been behind some of the chaos? Helping without letting me know." Adrian's lips pressed into a thin line. "Yes." "And now, the final play begins." Leander laughed from the far end of the warehouse, clapping slowly. "Bravo, Vale. Family reunions are always so dramatic. But this is just the beginning." Ethan looked at Aria, chest tightening. "Whatever happens next, stay close to me. I won't let anything happen to you." Aria's fingers intertwined with his. "I trust you, Ethan. Always." Adrian nodded once, grimly. "Then let's finish this." The warehouse shook as gunfire erupted again, crates splintering. Shadows moved with lethal precision, and in the chaos, Ethan realized one chilling truth. Leander had orchestrated everything, not just tonight, but every danger Aria had faced, every chase, every threat, leading them here for one reason: to force a choice. And now, with Aria's safety on the line and his long-lost brother at his side, Ethan understood the stakes were higher than ever. He clenched his fists. "We end this. Tonight. Together." Leander's voice cut through the storm. "Do you, Ethan Vale, truly know what it takes to win? Or are you just another fool who thinks love can protect you?" Ethan's eyes met Aria's. And in that silent moment he realized. It can. It must. Because tonight, nothing less than their hearts, and their lives, would survive. The warehouse had become a war zone. Splintered crates, scattered debris, and shadows moving with lethal intent filled every corner. Ethan crouched low beside Adrian, heart hammering, not just from the danger, but from the realization that his long-lost brother was here, fighting alongside him. Aria's eyes darted between them, fear etched into her face, but also something stronger, determination. "Ethan, What do we do? He reached for her hand, squeezing it. We fight. We survive. And we get out of here, together. Adrian nodded, signaling to Ethan. Leander has the advantage. He knows every weakness, every move. But tonight, we turn that against him. Leander stepped from the shadows, arms outstretched, a dangerous smile plastered across his face. Bravo, brothers. And bravo, little Aria, for trusting the billionaire to play hero. But here's the twist, you can't save her without losing something dear. You always knew the game would come at a cost, Ethan. Are you ready? Ethan's eyes narrowed. I don't play games, Leander. I protect what matters. Leander's smile widened. And yet, here you are, trapped by your own emotions. Perfect. That's why tonight will be unforgettable. The first shot rang out. Sparks flew from metal crates as Adrian dove to the side, firing a precise round at one of Leander's men. Ethan pulled Aria down behind a stack of crates. Hold on, he shouted over the chaos. Aria clutched his jacket. I'm not going anywhere. Ethan's mind raced. Every path, every exit, every shadow held danger. He had never felt this alive and terrified all at once. Leander appeared at the top of a catwalk, rain-slicked hair clinging to his forehead, gun raised. You really think you can outsmart me? Ethan's eyes flicked to Adrian. We can't fight him head-on. We need a distraction. Adrian smirked. I've been waiting for this moment. He disappeared into the shadows, moving silently, and moments later, a crate exploded near Leander, sending him stumbling, momentarily disoriented. Ethan seized the opportunity. He raced toward Aria, yanking the gag from her mouth. Run, he shouted. Aria hesitated. Ethan, what about you? Ethan glanced back. Adrian was engaging Leander, drawing his fire. I'll be right behind you. Go. Aria bolted, dodging debris and gunfire, her trust in him absolute. But just as Ethan was about to follow, Leander recovered, his eyes blazing. Vale, you won't leave here alive. Ethan raised his gun, heart pounding. Watch me. A deafening roar echoed through the warehouse as Adrian lunged from the shadows, tackling Leander, sending both men crashing to the ground. The fight was brutal, raw, two forces clashing with a lifetime of rivalry, betrayal, and secrets. Ethan turned to Aria. Go. Get out of here. She hesitated, then nodded, determination flashing in her eyes. She ran toward the exit, the storm outside welcoming her escape. But just as she reached the door, a shadow blocked her path. Marcus, recovering from the earlier chaos, raised his weapon. Aria froze. Ethan's heart lurched. No! He charged, adrenaline and fear fueling every step. In that instant he realized. He would face any danger, endure any fight, risk everything, just to keep her safe. A shot rang out. Aria screamed. Ethan dove toward her. And then, everything went dark. Ethan's world spun as he hit the ground, the deafening crack of gunfire ringing in his ears. Smoke, sparks, and rain-soaked shadows blurred his vision. Adrenaline roared through his veins as he scrambled to his feet, eyes locking on Aria. She had dropped to the floor, pressed behind a stack of crates, heart pounding, but safe. For now. Aria, are you okay? Ethan shouted over the chaos. I'm fine, she yelled back, voice trembling, but she didn't move. Fear was in her eyes, but also determination. Ethan's gaze snapped toward the chaos at the center of the warehouse. Leander and Adrian were locked in a brutal struggle, the catwalk above groaning under the strain. Sparks flew as metal collided with metal, Leander's fury matched only by Adrian's calculated strength. Ethan, Adrian grunted, breaking free momentarily. Go! Get her out! Ethan didn't hesitate. He grabbed Aria's hand, pulling her through the maze of crates, dodging debris and gunfire. Every step was a gamble. Every second could be their last. They reached a narrow stairwell at the far end of the warehouse. Ethan glanced back. Leander was rising again, fury in his eyes. Adrian was still fighting, but the odds were against him. Keep moving! Ethan shouted. Aria clung to him, panting. Ethan, I'm scared. Ethan stopped for a brief moment, cupping her face with one hand, rain streaking their hair. I know, he said, voice low but fierce. But I promise. I won't let anything happen to you. Not tonight. Not ever. Her eyes shimmered with tears, reflecting the storm outside. I trust you, she whispered. He pulled her into his arms, then propelled them down the stairs, leaping into the night. Rain drenched them immediately, lightning flashing across the dock, illuminating the towering ships and the churning water below. They reached the edge of the pier, but before they could climb to safety, a shadow fell across them. Marcus. Aria froze. Ethan's heart thundered. Get behind me, he growled. Marcus raised his weapon. Going somewhere, billionaire? You really think you can win this? Ethan's eyes narrowed. I don't think, Marcus. I know. I protect what matters. And she matters. Marcus laughed, but it was cut short by a roar behind him. Adrian had fought his way free, tackling Marcus into the rain-soaked dock, knocking the gun from his hands. Leander, furious, emerged from the warehouse, rain plastering his coat to his frame. This ends now, Ethan, Leander shouted. Ethan stepped forward, holding Aria close. It does. And we end it, together. Leander's eyes flicked between the three of them, calculating. You think you've won? He sneered. You've only just begun to play the game. The truth, the secret behind her, will destroy you if you're not careful. Aria's eyes widened. What truth? Leander's smirk was cold and cruel. The kind that changes everything. Ethan's fists clenched. Tell me. Now. Leander's lips curved into a sinister smile. Oh, you'll find out soon enough. But first. He raised a remote in his hand. Lights flared across the dock. A massive shipping crane shifted into position, its hook swinging ominously over the edge where Ethan, Aria, and Adrian stood. Ethan's eyes widened in horror. No! Leander's laughter echoed across the pier. Let's see how far love can really take you, Vale. And then, with a thunderous groan, the crane began to lower. Aria screamed. Ethan's heart raced faster than ever. He had never felt so powerless and so determined. Because tonight, it wasn't just a fight for survival. It was a fight for their love and for everything they had risked to find in each other. The hook descended, and the night held its breath. The crane's hook plummeted toward them like a steel guillotine. Rain hammered the dock, thunder roaring above. Ethan threw his body in front of Aria, shielding her as Adrian dove to the side. The hook slammed into the wooden planks, splintering them like matchsticks. Ethan dragged Aria away just before the boards gave way beneath their feet. Ethan! Aria gasped. He's trying to kill us. No, Ethan breathed, realization dawning. He's trying to separate us. Leander's voice crackled. Through a loudspeaker mounted on the crane. Bravo, Vale. You always were quick. But the truth, the one you've been too blind to see, is what really matters now. Aria's trembling hand clutched Ethan's sleeve. What truth? What is he talking about? Ethan glared up at Leander. Tell her, you coward. Leander descended the metal staircase of the crane, coat whipping in the wind, expression triumphant and unhinged. You want the truth? He shouted over the storm. Fine. Aria, you were never just a random woman on the curb that morning. Aria froze. Ethan's breath caught. Leander continued, savoring every word. You were placed there. The world seemed to stop. What? Aria whispered. Leander smirked. My men were supposed to pick you up. Bring you to me. But our favorite billionaire here, pretending to be a driver to taste a bit of the real world, ruined everything. Ethan's heart twisted. You're lying. Oh no, Leander said softly. I'm not. He pointed at Aria. She is the only living link to the woman who destroyed my life. Her mother. A whistleblower who exposed my father's crimes, who sent him to prison. I spent years tracking down anyone connected to her. And when I found Aria, I realized she was the perfect weapon. Aria staggered backward, shaking. My own mother? She never told me. She didn't want you involved, Leander snapped. But now you are. Ethan stepped in front of her, You stay away from her. Leander laughed, a bitter, jagged sound. Still protecting her? Even now? She was bait, Ethan. The trap. And you fell in love with her anyway. How poetic. Aria's voice broke. Ethan, I didn't know. I swear, I didn't know. He turned to her immediately, gripping her face gently. I know. None of this is your fault. Leander growled at the sight of them, two souls clinging to each other even as his carefully laid plans unraveled. Enough, he roared. If I can't break you mentally, then I'll break you physically. He reached for a detonator clipped to his belt. Adrian, battered and breathless, surged from the shadows. Ethan, get her out. Leander pressed the trigger. The dock exploded. Fire, debris, and water erupted in every direction. The force threw Ethan and Aria into the air, over the shattered edge of the pier, straight into the storming sea. Cold water swallowed them. Ethan fought upward, lungs burning, dragging Aria with him. She sputtered and coughed when they broke the surface, clutching to him. Ethan, I can't. Yes, you can, he rasped. Hold on to me. Above them, the remains of the dock burned, rain hissing against flame. Adrian and Leander were silhouettes in the firelight, one struggling, one staggering. And then, a final scream. A final splash. Silence. Ethan didn't know who had fallen. He didn't have time to care. He pulled Aria toward the shore, muscles screaming, fighting the waves with everything in him. When they finally collapsed on the wet sand, Aria curled into his chest, shaking uncontrollably. Ethan, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you. He wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close, forehead pressed to hers. Aria, you didn't hurt me. You saved me. Loving you saved me. Her breath hitched. Do you really still want me? After everything? After what my family did? He cupped her face, eyes fierce and full of devotion. I don't care where you came from. I don't care what secrets your past holds. I care about you. And I'm not letting you go. Her tears mixed with the rain. I love you, Ethan. He smiled, a real raw smile. I love you too, Aria. They kissed, desperate, breathless, certain. The flames behind them died. The storm softened. And dawn broke slowly over the horizon. Right as a figure limped toward them from the smoke. Ethan pulled Aria behind him, muscles tensing, ready to protect her again. The figure stepped into the light. Bruised. Bleeding. Barely able to stand. But alive. Adrian, Ethan breathed. His brother managed a weak smile. We're not done yet, brother. Ethan's eyes widened. Leander? Adrian swallowed painfully. He's gone. But he has a contingency plan. And it involves Aria. Ethan pulled her close again. What plan? Ethan demanded. What else is he hiding? Adrian shook his head slowly, grim urgency in his eyes. We need to leave. Because whatever Leander set in motion, it's already begun. Aria's fingers tightened around Ethan's. Ethan, what does that mean? He looked at the burning horizon, jaw set. It means, Ethan said softly, our story isn't over.